Welcome to the Enriched Minds podcast, people. Happy Saturday. This is a little late, but better late than never, right? What are we going to talk about today? Well, I could talk about Tekashi 6ix9ine, the rainbow hair rapper that got arrested on federal indictments and told on all his friends to save his own skin, but we're not going to talk about that. I could talk about the governor of Virginia and his blackface picture with the Ku Klux Klan guy. He says he don't know which one was him. And matter of fact, it wasn't him. I could talk about that too, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about something that causes wars, something that breaks up friendships, marriages, families, something that causes turmoil pretty much everywhere it goes. Something that seeps into the minds of people and can turn them evil, can turn them against everything that they once believed in. What are we talking about? What is it that I'm talking about? No, it ain't no money, stupid. It's sex. We're going to talk about sex today. And I'm not talking about in a sleazy, creepy way. We're going to talk about sex and the power it has and what it causes some people to do to get it. Because, I mean, let's be honest. For a lot of people, there's no end to what they'll do to get it, right? People will travel. People will do a lot of things that don't make sense to get it. But that's just the way it is. And so this isn't going to be a raunchy episode of a podcast about raunchy sex and the ignorant things like that come with that. But what we're going to talk about is why is in 2019 sex still taboo to some people? And where does the rules of sex come from? Things like that. Why do we lust? When is it okay to have sex? When is it appropriate to talk about it? We're going to talk about everything today. So get your drink. Well, I don't know what time it is you're going to be listening to this, but get yourself comfortable and get your thought process together and hunker down because we're going to delve into this touchy subject of sex in 2019. So first things first, I want to cover the taboo of sex and the origin of this mentality. Well, predominantly it comes from religion, okay? Religion plays a big part in sex. And I did a little digging around, and I come across this scripture from the Bible that says, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Now I'm going to translate that to you guys in 2019 language, meaning that any man that has had several different ways of sex with a woman in his head while he's looking at her, he is already in his heart had sex with this woman and committed adultery. Can I get a hallelujah? Now, I'm not here to mock the church and all these things, but notice how that scripture is just for a man. But what about a woman? Well, these scriptures don't really mention women in the same regard as lust for sex. And so that's where they kind of go wrong with me right away. It's like lust is a human occurrence, male or female. Because a lot of you guys don't know, you all shucks guys with your hands in your pocket and you think all women are pure. A lot of women think about sex more than you do, if not just as much. So in religion, sex is taboo. And although I'm not a religious person. I do believe in God, but I'm not a religious person. But it makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Unbridled lust can lead to pedophilia, can lead to rape. This is why people are serving time right now, or people getting put to death, or it's all sort of negative occurrences that's arising from people's lust for sex in an inappropriate fashion with children, with animals, things of this nature. So when you have a society, you can't allow people to just run rampant. It has to be some sort of order and some sort of rules to follow, which makes a lot of sense because everyone doesn't have a moral compass. And that's another thing, is like sexual morality. It makes a lot of sense that religion tries to tamp the sexual prowess that's going on out there, because you would have everybody having sex with each other in an inappropriate setting. It just gets out of hand. So that's one reason why I believe sex is taboo, because it's very private. And when is it appropriate? And a lot of the times these idiots are doing things like the Me Too movement had to get started because people are doing a lot of inappropriate things. Sex has nothing to do with business, but somehow these men have equated the two. You do a little something for me, I'll do a little something for you. So we're going to move on to sex's importance in relationships. Now, a lot of you women out there, men too, say, I want to be pure and I want to wait till I get married to have sex. And that's all fine and dandy and things. But sex is a very important part of a relationship. Now, you might say, well, you're just a freak and you think like that, and everybody don't think like that. And you know what? To a degree, you're right. I am a freak, and everybody don't think like that. But the majority of people do think like that. Now, in relationship, sex is associated with stability because it increases bonding, especially when each other's sexual desires are fulfilled. All the married couples stressed that sex is very important in a committed relationship because it maintains a level of intimacy that both people need in order to succeed. That's a fact. It's a very crucial part of marriages and relationships leading up to marriage. Now, why do I say it's not good to wait till marriage to have sex? Now, you can say it's just because you just want to trick a girl and have sex anyway, but that's not it. I'm not here to trick anyone. Due to the fact that sex is a very important part of a relationship, you should, before you commit to a lifelong commitment with somebody, you should totally know this person. You should know this person inside and out. You should know if you guys are compatible in every way, which includes sex. Now, what happens when you get married and you guys just aren't compatible sexually? Someone might have premature ejaculation problems. Someone might have erection problems. Someone's libido just doesn't match the other. Well, that causes a strain on the relationship because the person isn't totally satisfied, especially intimately. So what happens then? So then sometimes that's how cheating comes about. But before we delve into the cheating part, I just want to say it's best for you to totally know the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, because marriage, especially nowadays, people begin to treat marriage like a fad. Like, okay, I feel like getting married today, and next year I don't want to be married. And I don't think that's what the meaning of marriage is, especially when you vow till death do us part. Now, before I vow that I'm going to be with this woman until death do us part, I'm going to have to totally know this woman before I give my entire self and soul to this person. And I'm just pretty much stuck with this person, because a lot of you religious people too know that divorce is not good. So think about that aspect when you say you want to wait. What happens when this person is a lousy leg? And you can sit up here and say, oh, well, marriage isn't all about sex. And I agree with you 100%. It's not. But sex is a very important factor of a union. Believe that. Moving right along. You need to explore your sexuality before you get married. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be promiscuous. I'm not saying that you need to get out all of your crazy fantasies. But at 15, and let's say at the age of consent in your state, at that age, you have no idea who you are sexually. And to be quite honest, at 25, you still might not know who you are sexually, because sometimes when you hit 30, things that you never thought you would do, you want to do. You just change. It's just like your taste buds. You know, a lot of you guys that you liked something as a kid that you no longer like tomatoes or eggnog or something like that. You know, you loved it as a kid, you don't like it anymore. Or the things that you hated as a kid, you love and you have a taste for now. Same thing happens sexually. You need to know yourself before you commit yourself, because a lot of the times you get married young. People in a lot of cultures, people promote that. You know, you by this age you should be married with kids. Well, that's their mentality. It doesn't have to be yours. So you don't really know yourself sexually, and sometimes you might outgrow your partner, and then it puts a strain on the relationship once again. And so these things people don't like to talk about because people feel bad. I can understand people are embarrassed. Oh, I don't want to, he's no good in bed, but I don't want to seem mean because I'm not attracted to him no more because of that. Well, that's just who you are. And, I think as society, we need to make sure that we allow people to be more comfortable who they are. Hence, this is why gays are able to be more open with their sexuality without being persecuted. I mean, we still have problems. We're not perfect yet, but we're a lot further than we were 50 years ago. And a lot of guys stay in the closet because they're embarrassed. They don't want to admit they like men because in their social circles, that might not be accepted. And so people tend to hide it. So I think it's a big part of, especially a marriage, is like before you commit to death do us part, you must know yourself sexually. Know what you like, experience different things instead of doing it later in life. And, that's just my opinion, but hey, who wants to be a freak at 50? Anyway, the sexual morality that goes along with this, with sex, this is where we begin to falter, I believe. Now you say, well, why are we talking about sex out of the blue? Well, I've been covering this R. Kelly thing and then the new documentary on Michael Jackson and amongst the list of other men that date underage and women that date underage lovers. And so a large part of this arises from sex. Think about it. Pedophilia is pertaining to sex. Rape is pertaining to sex. The Me Too movement is pertaining to sex. Whether you're groping, it's leading all up to it. It's all in that nice little bundle. And people's sexual morality begins to wane and the lust begins to take over somehow. I don't know. For me, for instance, I couldn't force myself on anybody. I can't understand how people that do it, but they do it. So morally, it's just like business. Like you have businessmen that they have no morals. Their only objective is to win by any means necessary or get what they want by any means necessary. People do the same thing with sex. And this is where the problem comes in. This is where we have to protect these young kids from becoming a victim of somebody else's sickness. So maybe that's another reason why sex remains taboo, because some people might be afraid to expose their extreme hunger for sex, being that it might be deemed a sickness. And a lot of the times it is. You have people that are addicted to sex, just like they're addicted to opiates, addicted to food, addicted to many things. And I can understand why it can be a tender subject, because a lot of people are trying to hide a lot of these things that they're not comfortable being exposed. And so that brings us to lust. Now, lust is natural. Lust is actually pretty primitive. I watch a lot of nature videos and, study the animals and things of that nature, especially like the ones that I've been looking at lately is the Gelada baboons. Gelada baboons. They have a king in their society. And this king has many, many wives. And that king doesn't want any of the bachelors touching any of his wives. And if he finds out that one of them touched one of his wives, all hell breaks loose in a holy war, not a jihad, but equivalent to it, breaks out in Gelada Baboonville. And these baboons have canine teeth that are like lions, okay? And they know how to use them. And they will use them. But it sounds a lot like humans. Because a lot of you men out there, you have a lot of wives. Not on paper, but in your heart. And you don't want none of the other bachelors getting to that wife, don't you? And if he does get to that wife, you might go to prison. You might have to crack some heads and bust some skulls. And that's pretty primitive. It makes us a lot of like the Gelada baboons. Now, lust is another touchy subject because a lot of times you might be lusting for somebody you ain't got no business lusting for. Now, some of you are scratching your head and trying to play dumb saying, what do you mean by that? Well, your friend might come over with her new man or his new girl, and oh my God, you want that person more than they do. And you just can't stop thinking about that person, especially when you're laying down at night all by yourself and you're a little lonely and you just start thinking about who would you like to be there laying next to you. And then the lusting gets to start. And then that's when you start to go, hey, right. Now, this is another reason why I believe sex is a touchy subject, because people are ashamed of lusting for somebody, especially when they ain't got no business lusting for that person when it's somebody else's husband or somebody else's wife. And how do you control it? Well, according to one article, it says, control your eyes. Now, does that really work? I don't know, because our imaginations are so vivid. We will probably fill in the blanks. So you can see a girl walk in and turn your head and try not to look at her butt, try not to look at her breast, but your brain is probably filling in all these slots, and it's just a natural occurrence. You try to resist, and then you got to take a peek just to see if you're right. And that's the way it happens a lot of the times. And own it, damn it. Now, the problem of lusting is when it's inappropriate, when you're lusting for an underage person. Or you might be lusting for your friend's wife or your friend's husband or cousin or sister or mom or however it may be.
They're going to work.
And I don't have an answer for how to control that aspect of it. I mean, you like who you like. And this is a very touchy subject right now in America, especially like with the gays, and people are saying, are they born that way or is it learned? I don't have an answer for people. I don't have an opinion either. But I do know lust is a natural occurrence, and controlling it is also just as important as having it. So you can lust for anything. You can lust for money. You can lust for food. And if you don't control your lust for food, you might end up on that show, My 600-Pound Life. And if you don't control your lust for sex, you might end up in prison, or you might end up dead, or you might end up ruining your own life and destroying a family or things of that nature. So I think lust is it's an important part of the human process, but it's also something that needs to be understood and controlled and studied more. I think it needs to be a lot more data on lusting and all that. I mean, I don't really want to get that far off of this subject, but lusting is natural, people. So when you lust for someone and you try to hide it, and especially when it's appropriate, when a guy likes you, you like him, and you two are trying to hook up or just trying to get to know each other, and you might kiss him, and oh, you can't take it no more. Your body's throbbing, and you just damn near about to give yourself to him. Look, I'm not saying give it up, but don't think you're doing something bad by doing that. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Everybody goes through that. Now, I'll tell you a crazy experience I had with lust. And no, I wasn't lusting for nobody appropriate. But I'm not going to say when or where, but I was with a girl and we were having sex in the car. I'm gonna just be honest. We were having sex in the car on a very public street. Okay. It happened to be, it was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. And we were actually in the passenger seat. I'm on top or whatever, and she's butterfly, but that's neither here nor there. Well, someone was walking down the street. It was a short Mexican guy. I'm not calling out a Mexican. It's just that's who it was. As he's walking by, he looks at me, and I look at him. And I didn't give him a thumbs up, but I kind of gave him a thumbs up through my smile because I was smiling at him as he knew what I was doing, and I knew he knew what we were doing. And he didn't smile back. His eyes got big, and he just stared, and he kept walking. So as he's walking, I'm looking at him, and I'm still smiling, and he's not smiling. And, we're passing each other as if I'm facing north and he's walking south. So he's passing me, but he's still got a serious look on his face and his eyes are big. And he's staring at me. And now I realize, wait a minute, this ain't funny. This might be some Son of Sam type shit. So he's damn near turned all the way around now because he walks past the car, but his head is turned around like an owl. And he's still looking me in the eyes, and I'm still looking him in the eyes. Now my eyes are big, and my smile is gone, and I'm serious too. So I tell her, hey, wait a minute. Shit, let's take a little break here, because I don't know what the fuck is on my man's mind over here. Well, anyway, he disappears around the corner, and at this time, we were done. I'm concerned. Sex drive is gone. I'm worried about this little motherfucker. He might be Son of Sam. So we're sitting in the car, and we're talking for maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden I see some headlights coming, and from where he disappeared to, I see some headlights come out, and I see a truck that's pretty much it's going about as fast as a car does when you have your foot off the brake. It's called idling. Well, he's got his foot off the brake. He's just coasting out, and he makes a left, and and I'm looking to see who it is. And I see it's that little Son of Sam. And he's looking, his eyes are still big, his face is still serious, and he's looking into the car. And I'm looking him in the eyes again, and he's driving, and he passes, but he keeps looking, he's turned around, and he's still driving. So I'm thinking to myself, now, is this motherfucker crazy? Does he think we just going to invite him to come over to the car? I don't know what was on his mind. But that's the creepy lust. That's the lust that makes people ashamed. That's the lust that gets motherfuckers put in prison. And I believe that's another reason why sex is still a touchy subject in 2019, because that aspect has just not left people's minds. It's a damn shame. Now, another thing is most people have been constrained because sex is very, very personal. How personal? It's something that when you masturbate, you don't want anybody to know, and it's embarrassing. If you get somebody walk in, oh shit. You get caught with your dick in your hand. It's just not a good look. And so I think that's another reason why it's a touchy subject. But why is it so embarrassing to masturbate? Because let's be honest, pretty much everybody has done it or does it. Some do it in a healthy way, some do it unhealthy, but everybody does it. So oh my God, why are we so touchy when it comes to pleasure? Is it because it's dirty? Is it considered? Well, I guess it is considered dirty. Well, how dirty? How long has it been dirty? According to this article right here, since the medieval times, syphilis and gonorrhea were the two most prevalent STDs in Europe. Now, I've never had any of that shit, but I've just wondered. I've had friends that said it felt like they were pissing razor blades when they had these symptoms of it. And they had to go get a shot in the ass to get rid of it. But what happened back then, I know there was penicillin, but it wasn't like the shit was growing on trees, right? So some people just had to piss razor blades for months. I couldn't imagine. Well, anyway, one theory suggests that syphilis was spread by crew members who picked up the disease on voyages led by Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus must have been a pure freak, and they having sex all over the world, literally, back then. They are thought to have contracted syphilis while in the Americas and to have spread that shit when they returned to Europe. Sailors also are thought to be responsible for the spread of gonorrhea in Tahiti and New Zealand during the Cook voyages. Now, I was doing some digging earlier, trying to wonder, like, what is the origin of an STD? And that's something I just cannot find as of yet. But I promise to keep looking, and as soon as I find out, I'll let you know in one of the future episodes. But what was the first case of an STD, and why? This is something that one of the many crazy, well, I shouldn't say crazy, but one of the things that I think about a lot is, like, what started an STD? Did somebody stick his penis in a dirty mud hole and got some kind of bacteria? I don't know. But this is another part of why sex is taboo, especially now, because you can pick up one of these diseases, you can die, you can lose your vision. All sorts of things happen from dirty sex. Let's face it, everybody's not clean. Some women have sex and don't even take a bath, don't even wash up and go have sex with somebody else. There was a rapper from, or I guess I should say he was a singer. One of the, I can't even remember the group. He's out of Florida. I got new whips on the ride, running down 95. That was one of their songs. I can't think of who they were. Anyway, he's one of the singers from that group. Said that a girl come to his hotel room and she was ready to get busy. And just as they were about to get busy, or maybe they had started getting busy, apparently they did, because he found a used condom inside her vagina. Now, yes, that's gross. I understand, but this is a real life occurrence. You can Google this story. Used condom found in a groupie. You can find that through Google like that. And so it's amazing how disgusting people can be with sex. And so maybe that's another reason why this thing is so taboo, because some people's hygiene just isn't up to par. Maybe their pH balance is a little off. I don't know. But I do know that I've had a couple of bad experiences as a younger man back in high school where it was just so smelly. No sex could occur. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. So maybe that's another reason why sex is such a taboo subject, because it's considered dirty, which is very, very understandable. Now, I want to move into the fantasies of men and women. And a lot of you guys and a lot of you women might not know about some of these fantasies, but women are almost more sexual than men. I'll say that. I've learned that from these articles come from Vanity Fair. They come from Cosmopolitan. But check this out. We're going to go to the men's sexual fantasies first, like the most common. Because we're not talking about no R. Kelly shit. Okay, everybody ain't pissing on people, but that is a part of like the humiliation type sex. Let's see what we can pull up. Let's see. But yeah, we're not talking about crazy shit. Okay. So let's see what we can pull up here. Okay. Threesomes. Now, I bet you all of you guys had already answered that question before I even finished the sentence, right? We're just going to go top 10, everyday health. Threesomes is one. Okay. Putting your partner in charge. So what does that mean? Basically, like being dominated. A lot of men like to be dominated. Now, I don't understand why this is a fantasy. I don't know what world everybody lives in, because for me, this is pretty much mandatory. But oral sex is a common fantasy for a man. I don't understand why that's a fantasy in 2019. I don't know who did these answers, but clearly they were probably out of the 50s. But oral sex is one. Putting their partner in charge is two. Threesomes are three. Because all these men, most men want threesome. I've had a lot of threesomes, and for me, they're overrated. I mean, it's just I I'll get to that part why I believe that later. Anyway, anal sex. A lot of men want to stick it in the dookie shoe. And a lot of questions that these men are asking are, how do I get my girlfriend to enjoy anal sex? Well, I mean, dog, it's about whether, I mean, either she's going to enjoy it or not, but I don't think you're going to force her to enjoy it. Come on, baby. I think that's another reason why it's taboo. Watching sex. Now, some men like to be voyeurs. Some men like to peek in the window. I must admit, as a kid, I was a security guard. I was probably 18, and we used to watch people have sex in the hot tub. You know, just like with popcorn. We weren't with our pants down and masturbating and no fucking perverted things like that. It's just like something taboo. You just watch it, but it was definitely not perverted. But this is another common fantasy that men have. And submission, this whole 50 Shades of Grey type thing, and the R. Kelly kind of shit. You know, people tied up, apple in their mouth or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. But people get pretty weird. I see that, especially with these fantasies, but also exhibitionism. Now, meaning having sex in public. Guess that's why, same thing I was doing, having sex in the car. I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, we didn't give a damn. Domination is another man's fantasies. Fetishes. Okay, that's where you start to get the lines blurred a little bit, because people pooping and peeing and all this kid tends to creep into this topic. I don't understand it, but hey, I'm not everybody. I can't speak for everyone, right? Just like they can't speak for me. Role playing is number 10. Now, hopefully the man is dressed up like a private eye from the fucking black and white days, and he's got a suspect's wife here, and he's going to get the truth out of her. By gosh, no matter what it takes for me to do, right? But that's the 10th common sexual fantasy of men. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and flip over to women, and we're going to compare the list and see how similar they are. Okay? Now this one was kind of hard for me to find because they had a bunch of different sources. So I'm going to read to you 7 common sexual fantasies from according to Cosmopolitan magazine. Now, dominating is one, where this particular writer says her wildest fantasies involves dominating a man and a woman at the same time in a cuckolding scenario. Now, in case a lot of you guys, these listeners, don't know what cuckolding means, it's basically cheating in front of someone. So, like, it's typically attributed to men, where a woman is cuckolding her husband by having sex with another man while the husband sits right there and watches helplessly. I don't know why that's a thing that people actually could do. I mean, if I can't even join in, what the fuck? I'm killing the whole house. I'm not. That's a joke, but you get the picture. But that seems to be one of these fantasies is cuckolding. Another one is a little bit of rough stuff, like a burglar breaking in and just some stranger just forcing himself. Now, that's the tricky part, because a lot of these men take that shit serious and they go to prison for a long, long time for rape. Men, she's got to know you. She's got to consent. Then you play burglar. You don't be the real burglar. That ain't going to work. Then you have some with the role playing, where people want to portray these fantasies and things of that nature. But what's very common is women want to have 2 men at one time. Now, that's another thing that's taboo, because it's considered dirty. It's considered being a whore. It's considered anything but good. And I gotta say, I kind of disagree with that, because if that's what you like sexually, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a whore. It just means you wanted to have 2 guys at one time to pleasure you. And fellas, I think that's a lot of your fault. I'm gonna stop the fantasy list for a second and just elaborate. A lot of you selfish ass loving men, you're only worried about yourself getting off. And this is what a chick told me before. She said, we had a disagreement. I believe that a woman gets more out of sex than a man. She says, how so? I said, a woman makes all this noise, her eyes are rolling and blah, blah, blah. She said, well, some men do that too. I said, well, damn, you got a point. But women tend to do that more. You can hear sex, and it's typically a woman for the most part. But the woman told me that she said a man is going to get his regardless. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? She said, the man is going to come, whether the woman comes or not. And I said, blasphemy. You mean to tell me that it's some sapsucker men out there that's going to have sex with you and ain't going to make sure you come 5, 6 times? She said, absolutely. Matter of fact, I don't even believe I can come 5 or 6 times. That's your fault, man. Your poor performance and your lack of ability or your lack of desire of whether she's pleased or not has led a lot of these women to believe they need 2 men to equal 1, pretty much. That's your fault, motherfucker. So don't get mad because your girl is getting tossed up by 2 or 3 guys. You created that monster by not giving her enough. So you need to do your duty. You men out there, you do your duty. You do your push-ups. You go in the bathroom. You get one off before you have sex. That way you can last longer. That way you make sure that you leaving all your customers satisfied. Okay? Oral sex is another woman's fantasies. Now, like I said, in 2019, it should be mandatory. Now, all you old school 1930s and 40s fellas, if you ain't going down on your girl, that's another reason you're losing. Now, some of you women don't like men to go on down there. And it's a little disappointing to somebody like me because I enjoy pleasing. I'm a pleaser. But fellas, if she wants you to go down there and ain't nothing wrong down there, that everything is sanitary, go on down there, man. It's just it's not what you're making it out to be. You're making it very, very hard. Now, also, sex in public is another common woman fantasy. Hence, us in the car. Well, I don't know if that was a fantasy. That was just spilt over lust. Let me say that it just boiled up and just bam. You know, like how you cook oatmeal and the pot just overflows and shit. That's what we did in the car. But a lot of people fantasize for these things, and it's unfortunate that that they don't get it. I can't imagine how many women died not knowing they were supposed to enjoy sex or not being comfortable with their sexuality and wanting to do certain things. It's just unfortunate for me. But infidelity is another woman's fantasies. This is where we start to get touchy, women, because I don't know if all of you women that are listening know, but the most fragile thing on earth is a man's ego. And a man just can't bear the thought of somebody else having sex with somebody he deemed his. Okay, this is like the most heart-wrenching thing. This makes motherfuckers dive off buildings. This makes motherfuckers kill everybody. You know, mass shootings, a lot of them probably occurred, has something to do with this touchy subject. But fellas, that's a lot of women's fantasies. And like I said, get on your job. You got to do what you got to do. But anyway, these are the lists are pretty much similar. And I was saying all that to say we are more alike than not. Men and women have these same desires, but it's about control. It's about moderation. Now, I know a lot of you women are saying, well, let's just get to the cheating part. This is the last part of sex that I want to discuss. And why do men cheat? Why do women cheat? Why does infidelity exist? Now, it's a lot of reasons. And I know a lot of you guys are screaming at the radio or screaming at the screen saying, because men are dogs. And you're kind of right, but women could be dogs too, right? Now, you can say men are greedy. They think with their little head, and they just want to fuck everything moving. Some men, yes. Some women, yes. But what about when you're not satisfied? What about, think of it like this, and this is why I think it's dangerous to get married when you're not on the same sexual page. Your partner might feel neglected. Your partner might not feel that their sexual needs are that important to you. And someone else understands them more sexually. And this is why people cheat, male and female alike. This is a lot of the reasons why people cheat. Now, some people are greedy. Some people like Lil Wayne, they just want to fuck every girl in the world. But everybody ain't like that, ladies and fellas. All women ain't like that either. Sometimes when she's asking you to go downtown a little bit and take care of her, make sure she can come too, and you say you're going to take care of her in about 10 minutes and you roll over and you start snoring, that's neglect. That's you not doing your job. And you might convince yourself and say, oh, well, she ain't going nowhere because I got that on lockdown. You can kid yourself, fellas, but an old school guy told me a long time ago that it's always mama's babies, daddy maybe. Meaning, you don't know who the fuck might have been tipping in there when you wasn't there. And so let's think about this for a minute. Let's think about, is it worth losing somebody because you don't want to satisfy them sexually? If you call yourself loving them, why wouldn't you want to satisfy them? And that's why I view threesomes the way I do. Now, if I was in love with these two girls, it would be something different. But I've evolved to a point where I don't want to have gelato baboon sex. Now, you probably asking, what the fuck is gelato baboon sex? Well, if you watch them have sex, there's no kind of intimacy involved in it. They just grab them and they're just fucking. And their facial expressions are still the exact same. There's no pleasure. There's no nothing in it. And to me, that's just not as, that doesn't do it for me anymore. I don't want to just have sex just for the sake of having it. There has to be some sort of emotion behind it. Now, this is where people go water and oil. They don't mix, people. For you guys that wonder what the fuck I'm talking about, water and oil do not mix. So a lot of you people don't mix because you're not on the same page sexually. You have two different views of sex. Now somebody might be compromising while the other one's not. Resentment builds. Relationships fray. Divorces ensue. Assets get split. Alimony gets paid out. Child support becomes devastating. Now, I'm not going to hold up too much more of your time. We'll continue on another episode in the future. But I just want people to think about sex, the power it has, the things that people will do for it, both moral and immoral. A man will go all week without being able to eat lunch to take a girl out on a date just because he think he might have sex with her. This is how bad it is.